From infertility to motherhood. How one human helped an alien rewrite her fate. HFY Sci-Fi HFY. The first sign that something was wrong with the Virelian people was not panic or war, but silence. For generations, no children had been born. The Virelians lived on a soft blue world covered in crystal forests and calm seas. Their cities were clean and bright, their technology far beyond most species in the Galactic Union. They solved problems with logic, patience, and careful planning. They believed in balance. They believed in control, and that belief slowly ended them. Lurie walked through the archive hall as she did every cycle. The hall was vast, with tall, transparent walls filled with floating data lights. Each light represented a memory, a record, a piece of Virelian history. Battles won, treaties signed, stars mapped. It was beautiful and empty at the same time. She stopped in front of one of the oldest sections. Here, the lights were dimmer, softer. These records were not about science or progress. They were about families. Lurie reached out and activated one of the memories. A holographic image appeared, a Virelian mother holding a child. The child's skin shimmered with young energy, their eyes wide with curiosity. The mother's expression was calm, proud, complete. Lurie felt the familiar ache inside her chest. She had studied genetics for most of her life. She knew the truth better than most. Virelian females were no longer capable of reproduction. Their biology had changed slowly over centuries as they adapted to deep space travel and artificial environments. Every small change had seemed like progress at the time. Stronger immune systems, longer lifespans, better control over emotions. But something vital had been lost. The Council had declared the condition permanent 200 cycles ago. Countless studies confirmed it. No children, no future, only time. Lurie turned off the memory and continued walking. She did not cry. Virelians were not taught to cry easily, but the sadness never left her. It lived quietly inside like a fading star. That day, the Galactic Union announced the arrival of a new member species, humans. Lurie first saw a human through a live broadcast in the central chamber. The council gathered with delegates from many worlds. The human stood out immediately, shorter than most species present. Softer features, no visible biological enhancements, no external armor or defensive traits, and yet something about them made the room tense. The human representative spoke with confidence but not arrogance. They explained humanity's history, wars, mistakes, near extinctions. Survival through struggle, adaptation through failure. Many species found it disturbing. The Virelian Council watched in silence. To them, humans seemed chaotic, emotion-driven, biologically inefficient. Why would such a species survive long enough to reach the stars? Later, Lurie was summoned to a private briefing. "You will assist in a cultural and scientific exchange," the council leader said. "A human xenobiologist has requested access to our archives." Lurie felt a flicker of surprise. Outsiders rarely showed interest in Virelian internal records, especially those related to reproduction. Most species already knew the story. There was nothing left to learn. "What is the purpose?" Lurie asked. "The human believes our condition may be reversible." The room went very still. "That conclusion is incorrect," Lurie said carefully. "All data proves." "The human disputes our interpretation," the council leader interrupted. "You will observe, nothing more." Lurie bowed in acceptance, though unease twisted inside her. She met the human the next cycle. His name was Elias Morgan. He stood in the archive hall, slowly turning in place as if trying to take everything in at once. His eyes moved constantly, scanning the data lights, the architecture, the symbols etched into the walls. "You must be Lurie," he said when he noticed her. His voice was calm, curious, not fearful. "Yes," she replied. "You requested access to restricted records." "I did," Elias said, "and thank you for agreeing. I know this subject isn't easy." That surprised her. Most outsiders spoke with either pity or distant politeness. Elias spoke as if he understood loss. They walked together through the hall. Lurie activated data clusters as requested. Elias listened more than he spoke. He asked questions that were simple but strangely precise. When did the changes start? Elias nodded, but his expression tightened. For humans, he said, randomness saved us. She stopped walking. That is illogical, she said. Random traits create errors. They also create solutions, Elias replied. You don't find new paths by walking the same perfect line every time. Lurie studied him carefully. Humans were known for bold statements, but Elias did not sound reckless. He sounded convinced. They reached the deepest section of the archive. Here, records showed early genetic modifications. Lines of data glowed red where changes had been made. Elias leaned closer to the display. You didn't lose the ability, he said quietly. You locked it. Lurie felt a sharp reaction inside her. That is impossible. You didn't remove reproduction, Elias continued. You suppressed pathways, deactivated sequences, probably to reduce energy costs or emotional variables. That was necessary, Lurie said. Our survival depended on it. And now your survival depends on undoing it. The words felt dangerous, forbidden. Lurie turned away. The council has ruled this irreversible. Elias looked at her, really looked at her. Do you agree with them? She hesitated. Violins valued honesty above comfort. Lurie had spent her life studying data that said one thing, while her instincts whispered another. I do not know, she admitted. That answer seemed to satisfy him. Over the next cycles, Elias worked alongside her every day. He did not demand changes or push authority. He observed, analyzed, and compared Violin data with human genetic history. He showed her records of humanity's own struggles, diseases thought impossible to cure, environmental damage thought permanent, predictions of extinction that never came true. Humans fail a lot, he said once, smiling slightly. But we don't stop trying just because something failed before. Lurie watched him late one cycle as he reviewed genetic sequences long after rest hours. His persistence was quiet, steady. Why do you care? She finally asked. Elias paused. Because I've seen what happens when a species believes its story is already finished. Lurie felt something shift inside her. She began reviewing old data with new eyes, not looking for confirmation of failure but for overlooked patterns, minor fluctuations. Inactive markers that had once been dismissed. They were there, faint but present, her pulse quickened. These sequences, they are dormant, not damaged. Elias leaned in, excitement controlled but clear. Exactly, but discovery brought fear. If the council learned what they were doing, the project would be shut down immediately. Hope was considered dangerous, false hope even more so. You are asking us to reopen wounds, Lurie said softly. I'm asking you to consider that those wounds never fully healed, Elias replied. The cycle ended with Lurie standing alone in the archive, staring at the ancient memory of the mother and child. For the first time, she did not feel only sadness. She felt uncertainty. And for a Violin, uncertainty was the first step toward change. The change did not come with alarms or announcements. It came quietly, in the way Lurie began to look at her own people differently. For many cycles after the discovery of the dormant sequences, Lurie and Elias worked in silence. They spoke less in public spaces and more in private research rooms. The archive hall, once a place of memory and loss, became a place of possibility. Still, neither of them said that word aloud. Hope was dangerous on viral. Lurie reviewed old genetic reports line by line. The Violins had always trusted their past conclusions. Once the council decided something was final, it became truth. Elias did not accept that idea. He questioned every assumption, not with disrespect, but with curiosity. Why did you stop testing here? He asked one cycle, pointing at a sequence marked incomplete. Lurie studied the record. The council believed further testing would waste resources, and no one argued. She hesitated. Arguing is not encouraged. Elias nodded slowly. That explains a lot. The more they studied, the clearer the pattern became. The infertility was not a failure of biology. It was the result of overcontrol. The Virelians had trimmed away every trait that caused unpredictability. Emotions, stress responses, hormonal surges. In doing so, they had silenced the very systems that allowed new life to begin. Elias compared it to a human heart. If you smooth every spike, remove every irregular beat, you don't get perfection, he explained. You get a flat line. Lurie understood then why humans unsettled other species. They accepted instability as part of existence. Where Virelians saw danger, humans saw opportunity. As the research deepened, the risk increased. Other scientists began to notice unusual access patterns. Data logs showed frequent use of sealed archives. Questions reached the lower council levels. Lurie could feel the attention shifting toward her. One cycle she was summoned before the council without warning. "You are spending excessive time in restricted genetic archives," the lead counselor said. "Explain." Lurie stood straight. Her voice was calm, as expected of her role. "I am assisting the human researcher as ordered." "And what conclusions have you reached?" another asked. Lurie chose her words carefully. "No conclusions yet." That was not a lie, but it was not the full truth either. The council dismissed her, but suspicion lingered. Lurie knew they were being watched now. That cycle she met Elias later than usual. "They are noticing," she told him. "I assumed they would," Elias replied. He did not seem alarmed. "We're close, aren't we?" "Yes," Lurie said. "Close to something irreversible." They stood in silence, surrounded by glowing genetic patterns. For the first time, Lurie felt fear, not of failure but of success. "What happens if we are right?" she asked. Elias looked at her. "Then everything changes." The next phase required more than observation. Elias believed the dormant sequences could be reactivated, but not through direct force. The Virelians had tried brute genetic correction before. It failed every time. Instead, Elias proposed a catalyst based on human biology. "The human immune system is aggressive," he explained. "It adapts under pressure. It wakes up dormant systems when survival is at stake." Lurie studied the simulation. "This process introduces controlled stress." "Yes," Elias said. "Not harm, stress." Virelians avoided stress at all costs. Their society was built to remove it. Introducing it intentionally felt wrong, almost cruel. "The council will never approve this," Lurie said. "I know," Elias replied. "That's why I'm not asking them." Lurie understood what he meant immediately. She was silent for a long time. "You are asking for a volunteer," she said. "Yes. And you know there will only be one possible candidate." Elias did not answer. He did not need to. Lurie had no children, no mate. Her work defined her life. If the experiment failed, the cost would be hers alone. If it succeeded, the impact would be beyond measure. "You should not do this," Elias said finally. "I can find another way." "There is no other way," Lurie replied. "Not one that matters." They prepared in secret. Elias adjusted the catalyst carefully, ensuring it would activate dormant pathways without causing damage. Lurie reviewed every step, every risk. She did not act out of emotion. She acted out of logic and responsibility. But beneath her calm surface, something stirred, a thought she had never allowed herself to hold. What if? On the cycle of the procedure, the research chamber was empty except for them. The room was sterile, quiet, and shielded from external monitoring. Lurie lay on the platform, her hands resting at her sides. Elias stood beside her, scanning data readouts. "You can stop this," he said one last time. Lurie met his eyes. "So can you." He activated the sequence. At first, nothing happened. Lurie felt warmth spread through her body, not painful but unfamiliar. Her heart rate increased. Hormonal levels fluctuated wildly, then stabilized. Systems long dormant began to respond. Elias watched in silence, afraid to breathe. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally, the sequence ended. Lurie sat up slowly. "Do you feel different?" Elias asked. She considered the question. "I feel unsettled," he smiled faintly. "That's a start." The following cycles were the hardest. There were no immediate results, no clear signs of success. Lurie returned to her duties outwardly unchanged, but inside her body behaved in ways she had never experienced. Fluctuations, fatigue, heightened sensory awareness. She recorded everything. The council noticed the changes before the data confirmed them. "You are distracted," a counselor observed during one session. "I am processing new information," Lurie replied truthfully. Whispers spread. Some said the human was influencing her too deeply. Others suggested emotional contamination. Elias was called before the council soon after. "You have exceeded your role," the council leader said. "Your presence is causing disruption." "I'm doing my job," Elias replied calmly. "Your species thrives on disorder," another counselor said. "Ours does not." Elias met their gaze. "Your species is dying." Silence followed. They did not expel him, but they restricted his access further. The message was clear: end the research or face consequences. That cycle, Lurie experienced something unprecedented. Her body generated a new hormonal pattern. She stared at the data in disbelief. "It's happening," she whispered. Elias stared at the readout, his hands trembling slightly. "This shouldn't be possible." "But it is," Lurie said. The changes were small, fragile, and easy to deny. But they were real. The Virelian medical systems flagged the anomaly. The council demanded immediate explanation. Lurie stood before them once more. "You acted without authorization," the lead counselor said. "Explain." Lurie did not lower her eyes. "For the first time in centuries," she said, "a Virelian body is responding as it once did." Gasps rippled through the chamber. "That is impossible," one counselor said. "Then explain the data," Lurie replied calmly. The council recessed in chaos. Outside the chamber, Elias waited. "They know now," he said. "Yes," Lurie replied, and they are afraid." She paused, placing a hand over her chest, feeling a steady rhythm she had never known before. "But so am I," she added. For the first time in her life, the future was no longer a closed book. It was unfinished, and humanity had just helped her people turn the page. The council did not sleep after Lurie's announcement. For the first time in centuries, Virelian leaders argued openly. Some demanded the research be stopped immediately. Others feared the data would spread beyond control. A few, very few, felt something close to wonder, but they hid it behind careful silence. Lurie was placed under constant observation, not imprisonment but close enough. Medical scans followed her every cycle. Every change in her body was recorded, analyzed, and questioned. Elias was barred from direct access to the archives. "You are not to interfere further," the council leader told him. "Your influence has gone far enough." Elias listened without anger. "Then let me observe." "That privilege is also revoked." Elias left the chamber knowing this was not a victory or a defeat. It was fear, wearing the shape of authority. Despite the restrictions, the change inside Lurie continued. Her body followed patterns long absent from Virelian biology. Rhythms emerged, cycles formed. Medical systems flagged events they were not designed to interpret. The doctors were confused. "This data should not exist," one said. "But it does," another replied quietly. Lurie felt the changes before the machines confirmed them. She felt warmth where there had always been calm emptiness. She felt fatigue that did not fade with rest. She felt emotions sharpen, deepen, grow more difficult to contain. She also felt something else: connection. One cycle, while resting in her quarters, she placed her hand on her abdomen without thinking. The gesture felt instinctive, ancient, and terrifying. She removed her hand immediately. "Not yet," she told herself. "Do not assume. Do not hope." Hope had destroyed many before. The council ordered an independent verification. Specialists from 3 allied species arrived. They brought unfamiliar tools, unfamiliar methods, and skeptical minds. Elias was allowed to attend as a silent observer only. The tests took many cycles: blood analogs, cellular scans, deep genetic mapping. The conclusion came quietly. "It is not a false signal," the lead specialist said. "This is genuine biological progression." The chamber went still. "What progression?" the council leader asked. The specialist hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Gestational." The word echoed like a shockwave. Lurie felt her balance shift. The room seemed suddenly too bright, too loud. She did not collapse. She did not cry. She stood very still, because if she moved, she feared everything would become real. Elias closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were wet. "It worked," he whispered. The council did not celebrate. They panicked. Emergency sessions were called. Media blackouts enforced. The story was sealed as classified at the highest level. Guards were posted outside Lurie's quarters, not to protect her but to contain the situation. "You cannot allow this to become public," one counselor said. "It will destabilize our society." "Our people deserve to know," another argued. "They deserve stability," the first replied. Lurie listened to them debate her existence as if she were not present. Finally, she spoke. "You are not afraid of instability," she said calmly. "You are afraid of change." The chamber fell silent. "You fear that if this becomes known," she continued, "our people will question centuries of belief. They will ask why hope was taken from them." No one answered. The council postponed a decision. Delay had always been their greatest tool, but truth does not wait. Subtle changes in Lurie's appearance became noticeable. Her energy levels shifted. Her posture changed. Medical staff could no longer deny what was happening. Whispers spread beyond the council. A technician spoke too freely. A medic hesitated too long before denying a rumor. Information leaked in fragments, incomplete but powerful. The word spread through Virelian society: pregnant. The reaction was not what the council expected. There was fear, yes, confusion, disbelief, but there was also something else. Long-suppressed emotion rose like a tide. Old Virelians visited forgotten family memorials. Younger ones asked questions they had never been allowed to ask. Artists created images of children without being told to stop. The council attempted to regain control. Lurie was summoned again. "You have become a symbol," the lead counselor said, "whether you intended to or not." "I did not seek this," Lurie replied, "but I will not deny it." "You must agree to isolation," another counselor said, "until the outcome is known." Elias stepped forward. "You can't lock her away." "This is not your decision," the council leader snapped. Lurie raised her hand. "I will not be hidden," she said. Her voice was steady, but something stronger lived beneath it now. "Not anymore." That strength unsettled them more than anger ever could. The council voted. Lurie would remain under observation but not confinement. Elias would be reinstated as a consultant under strict supervision. The data would be slowly released, controlled, shaped. It was not justice, but it was movement. As cycles passed, the reality became undeniable. Lurie's body adapted naturally. There were moments of discomfort, moments of fear, moments of overwhelming emotion she struggled to understand. Elias remained close, guiding medical teams, adjusting treatments, ensuring safety. "You're doing great," he told her one cycle. She tilted her head. "I am doing nothing." "You're letting change happen," he said. "For your people, that's everything." One night, Lurie woke suddenly. Her heart raced. Her senses sharpened. Something felt different. She called for medical assistance. Scans were run immediately, the room filled with silence. Then a soft sound echoed through the chamber, rhythmic, gentle, alive. "What is that?" Lurie asked. The doctor's voice shook. "A heartbeat." Lurie closed her eyes. For the first time in Virelian history, that sound was not a recording. It was real. News spread faster than any council order could stop it. Across the planet, Virelians listened in silence as the recording was released. The heartbeat played in public halls, private homes, and quiet workspaces. Some cried openly, others stood frozen. Many simply listened over and over, afraid it might disappear. Opposition rose quickly. "This child is unnatural," a faction leader declared. "It was created by alien interference." Elias answered publicly. "Humanity did not give them a child," he said. "We gave them a chance. Their own biology did the rest." Debate shook the Union. Some species feared humans more than ever. If they could restore life to a dying species, what else could they change? Others watched with awe. Lurie became more than a scientist. She became proof. As the cycles advanced, her connection to the life within her grew stronger. She began to understand emotions humans spoke of so casually: protection, anticipation, fear mixed with joy. One cycle, she stood before the archive again. She activated the old memory of the mother and child. This time she did not feel loss. She felt continuity. Elia stood beside her. "You did this," she said softly. "No," he replied. "You did," she shook her head. "My people locked the door. Humanity showed us it was never sealed." He smiled. Outside, the galaxy watched. A species once declared extinct in waiting now stood on the edge of rebirth. And humanity, as always, did not shout about it. They simply refused to let the story end. The final cycles before the birth were the longest of Lurie's life. Her body changed in ways no Virelian medical text fully explained. Systems that had been dormant for centuries now worked together with calm purpose. Doctors monitored every moment, adjusting equipment and rewriting procedures as they went. Nothing about this was standard. Everything about it was history in motion. Lurie felt the weight of it every day. She was no longer just Lurie the archivist or Lurie the scientist. To many, she was the future. To others, she was a threat. To herself, she was simply someone trying to take one careful step at a time. Elias stayed close, but never overbearing. He understood that this was not his moment. Humanity had opened the door, but what walked through it belonged to the Virelians alone. "You don't have to carry this alone," he told her one cycle as they walked slowly through a garden dome. "I am not alone," Lurie replied, placing a hand on her abdomen. She paused, then added, "And neither are my people anymore." Across Virel, change spread faster than laws could contain it. Research teams began re-examining old genetic data, inspired by what Lurie's body had proven possible. Volunteers came forward, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. Not all procedures worked. Some failed completely. But unlike before, failure did not end the effort. That, more than anything, was humanity's influence. The Council struggled to keep pace. Their authority had always rested on certainty. Now, certainty was gone. In its place was something unpredictable. Choice. As the expected birth cycle approached, the Galactic Union sent observers. Some came out of concern, others out of fear. A few came simply to witness something no one believed they would ever see. Security tightened, not because of danger, but because of importance. The chamber prepared for the birth was calm and bright. Soft lights, minimal instruments. Virelian technology adapted again, this time guided by human experience rather than perfection models. Lurie lay on the platform, breathing slowly. Her emotions surged and receded in waves she was still learning to ride. Fear came, she accepted it. Hope followed, she accepted that too. Elia stood behind the medical team, silent, hands clasped. "You're ready," a doctor said gently. Lurie nodded. The process was not easy, but it was natural. Pain came, but it was purposeful. Her body knew what to do, even if her species had forgotten. Time stretched and folded in on itself. Then finally a sound filled the chamber. It was small, fragile, alive, the cry of a child. The room froze. For a heartbeat, no one moved, no one spoke, as if the universe itself needed a moment to confirm what had just happened. Then the doctor lifted the child gently. "A healthy Virelian," she said, voice trembling, "perfectly formed." Lurie reached out with shaking hands. When the child was placed against her, something inside her settled forever. The skin shimmered softly, brighter than most newborns. The eyes opened briefly, unfocused but aware. A new pattern of life, old and new at once. Lurie did not cry loudly. Tears slid quietly down her face as she held the future of her people. Across the planet, the moment was broadcast live. There was no cheering at first. There was silence. Then slowly sound returned. Gasps, soft voices, uncontrolled sobs. Violins gathered in public spaces, homes, research labs, ships in orbit, watching something they had been told was impossible their entire lives. A child. The council released a statement within hours. Today marks a turning point in Violin history, it said. We acknowledge that our past conclusions were incomplete. Our future will be guided by renewed study, openness, and care. It was not an apology, but it was enough. Elias stood before the Union Assembly days later. Representatives from dozens of species watched him carefully. You have changed the balance, one said. Why did humanity intervene? Elias considered the question. Because extinction is not a lesson, he replied. It's a failure, and humans don't accept failure as final. Some species were unsettled by that answer. Others felt relief. Humanity asked for nothing in return. No control, no ownership, no special status. They shared every piece of research freely, trusting the Violins to decide their own path. That trust left a deeper mark than any technology. Years passed. Lurie's child grew strong. Then others followed, carefully at first, then with growing confidence. Not every attempt succeeded, but enough did. The halls of the archives changed. New sections were added, not records of loss but records of beginnings, first steps, first words. First laughter echoing through cities once built only for adults. Violin society evolved. Emotional education became as important as logic. Variation was studied, not erased. The concept of perfection quietly disappeared from official doctrine. Lurie returned to the archive often, now with a small figure walking beside her. What is this place? The child asked one cycle. A memory, Lurie replied, and a reminder. Of what? That endings are not always endings. The child nodded, satisfied. Elias visited less often as time went on. Humanity moved forward as it always did, toward new challenges, new edges of the unknown. But the bond remained. At a union ceremony marking the 10th cycle since the first birth, a Violin elder spoke. We once feared humanity because they were unpredictable, she said. Now we understand. They are dangerous because they believe tomorrow can be better and they act on it. The galaxy listened. Humanity did not build statues. They did not demand praise. They continued doing what they had always done. They showed up. They questioned final answers. They refused to let stories end quietly. And on a calm blue world once destined to fade into silence, children's voices carried across crystal forests and open seas, proof that fate is not written by fear, but rewritten by those brave enough to challenge it.